When I tell people that Cry is one of my favourite Dance Mum solos of all time, people are very curious to know why. They'll say that Mackenzie had a lot more fun and entertaining solos that really showed off her personality, and I definitely agree with that statement, by the way. I also absolutely loved a lot of Mackenzie's other solos, such as Daisy Chains, Don't Take My Fire, Watch Me Fly, Out of My Mind. They were all amazing. And I'm very impressed by all the acro solos on Dance Mums because I've always wanted to do that kind of stuff and just, I'm not built for that. Other people will say that Maddie did this solo better. And I definitely do agree that she has an incredible emotional execution, and she definitely had emotions that were better suited to the music and theme of the dance back when she performed it. However, there is just something about Mackenzie's version of this solo that seems to run so much deeper. I feel like all the research I've done into the show and everything we know about the behind the scenes of this episode and the environment of Dance Mums in general really helps me to appreciate the subtleties that you wouldn't notice in the solo otherwise. First, let me say that this solo holds a bit of a special place in my heart because it is the very first solo that I saw from Dance Mums. Therefore, I do have a bit of a bias, especially for Mackenzie's version compared to Maddie's. Frankly, watching this without context, it's a beautiful solo. I had no one to compare it to, and it's a very strong performance and it holds its own. So with all that out of the way, let's talk about it. Long before Mackenzie stepped onto that stage, she had been subjected to things that no 9-year-old should have to worry about. She was constantly being harassed by her dance teacher, who was comparing her to her older sister and saying that she needed to live up to her reputation. Not only that, but she was also competing against a girl 3 years older than her in a style that was not considered her forte. And her sister was also competing against her doing a style that was supposed to be her forte. Christy has reiterated in one of her more recent videos that Mackenzie was beaten down a ton that week. I believe that we probably only saw a small sample of the insults that Abby threw at Mackenzie that week, because I've seen a lot of the season 4.5 production notes at this point, and there were a lot of insults in those notes that didn't make it to the final cut of episodes. Then there's the fact that this whole idea was probably a ploy by a bunch of adults, aka producers, in order to mess with Mackenzie's head and to provoke Abby into comparing Maddie and Mackenzie for drama. In this way, her dance isn't just a reflection of everything she had been experiencing that week, but also her experience of the show as a whole. We don't talk enough about just how much pressure was on the girls' shoulders every week. Not only did they only have a couple of days to learn their solos, but then they had to perform these solos in front of a national TV crew and fans, both of whom would record their dances in full HD video and upload it for the world to see and critique. Such pressure would even cause the strongest of individuals to suffer emotionally, and yet these were children. And yet there were severe consequences for letting your emotions show at all. Not only would Abby yell at them if they showed even an ounce of sadness, but the cameras would record any emotion and plaster it on TVs across the world. Their tears are still being used to this day to get people to click on videos and to watch more Dance Mums, and I'm well aware that I have played a part in this, and I'm very sorry for that. I've been trying to be a bit more mindful about the way that I use people's images in thumbnails. And in the middle of all this chaos that I've talked about, there is this innocent 9-year-old. She had just lost contact with 2 of her best friends only 5 weeks prior, due to a fight that happened between 2 adults who she probably looked up to. She had the world watching, ready to critique her if she broke down or messed up. Her mother was her bully's greatest supporter. At a time when dancing was no longer a hobby, but a means of paying the bills and a contractual necessity, she danced. It's only once you know all the turmoil that she experienced behind the scenes that you can see that her smile seems almost like a defense mechanism. Like if she let herself go, she's afraid she'd mess up. Like she's trying to hide the millions of thoughts that must be racing around her head. Trying to correct her technique, trying to use the right facial expressions, trying to just get through the routine. There's just such an innocence about her dancing that really gets me choked up. It's so beautiful, yet it masks so much hurt and insecurity. In the eye of this insane, tumultuous storm that we call dance mums, this little girl danced. If you ask me, she truly made this performance her own. I mean, there's the fact that she's a lefty, and so she literally did the reverse of everything Maddie did. But she also channeled her emotions in such a different way compared to her sister. The difference is that you can see her fear and her sadness behind the smile. It's subtle, yet it's authentic, and it's something that becomes more and more noticeable once you realize just what these girls went through. No matter how much we learn about the show, there's just something that cannot be grasped by those of us who were not there. That's why it brings me so much joy to see that these girls are supporting one another and still good friends to this day, because I'm sure that that support is very valuable. There is also a call that needs to be shouted to protect children from the exploitative forces that they cannot even begin to comprehend. And this doesn't just apply to the dance industry, it also applies to all kinds of sports and activities that children are involved in. I've watched this dance hundreds of times. I used to think that Mackenzie looked so free and happy to be up on that stage, but the reality is just so much more complex. Because there was more to this solo than the producers cared to show. Let me know if this is the kind of video you'd like to see more of, and if you want me to analyse any other dances, just leave your suggestions in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching my videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye.